Well, good early Tuesday morning, May the 23rd, 2023. I'm actually out here in the garden this morning. I came out to do a little bit of watering and look at my garden. And I'm going to be, in this video that I'm going to be talking to you, I told you in my last video, I'm actually going to be talking to you about adding fertilizer, what type of fertilizer that I like to use and what my experience has been, that what I've seen in my garden. And so I'm going to be doing that and kind of just show you through exactly what I want to do and what I've been doing and the results that I've been able to get. Excuse me, one of the fertilizers that I'm going to show you has been around for many years. When I was a small boy, my dad would use it. And then there's another fertilizer that I like to use. There's all different types out there that people like to use, and they've tried different things, and some people don't even fertilize. But you know, that's up to everybody's discretion, especially if you're doing your own gardening and what you want to do. But I just want to share with what I've been able to see and what I've done and how I like to do it and everything, and the little techniques that I've learned from other people, from other gardeners, and what my dad used to do as I was growing up and those things. And I use that term, you know, if you'll teach the child young, it will not depart from them and everything. And you know, even at my age, being a pawpaw and everything, the things that I've learned as a child that my dad taught me, I'm able to teach my children and even my grandchildren and so forth. And I just believe that that's the way that you should do things, the way you teach them and everything, and is what I've learned, and that's how I believed in, and that's what I believe in I'm doing. But I'm actually down here watering today. I'm going to actually show you the garden just briefly. The weather has been, you know, we've been sporadic. It's been a little cooler. I would have never thought in May 23rd that, you know, the temperature would be like 50 degrees or even close to 49 and everything, closer to the 40 end, versus about a warmer temperature in this zone in 7B. But this is how it is this year, but I know it's all over the regions and everything. A lot of people have had different weather. I know of, some zones have even had frost last weekend and everything, and they had to get prepared for that. But I'm just going to show you briefly a couple things, and then I'll be talking to you more about the fertilizing and what I do and everything, and hopefully it'll be a help to you. So these are my cool weather plants I just showed you briefly. These are where my beets and then my collards are in there. It's kind of hard to see underneath this net, but I told you why I have the netting over there is because of the larvae, those butterflies, the little white butterflies. I guess because of the cool weather, they haven't really affected it. I do have little spots on them, little holes. That can be from other insects and everything that I'm having to deal with. But you know what? It's all in learning. But this is my cabbage. Look how big the leaves are underneath here. I've got heads that are starting to form. I've got 3 different types of cabbage, and you can kind of get an eyeball of that, everything. I'm just going to go around quickly just to show you, even from the other day, how everything's are. I did a little video, I guess it was when I was doing tomatoes over the weekend, kind of gave a little bit of bird's eye view. This is my squash. These are my flowers. I'm letting them go. I haven't seen any pollinators down pollinators down here, but what I will be doing is that you can tell the plants are starting to get big. They're still young. So what I will do is I will, if I need to, if I don't see any pollinators down here, I will do self-pollinating. Basically, very simply, what that means is that on the flowers there in the center where you see that, I will actually take a Q-tip. When it's dry, it's wet now, I won't do it now, but actually I may not do it today, I may do it in the morning. But what I'll do is I'll just take it and I'll rub it around there to each one, and I'll go to each flower. This is called self-pollinating, and it really works. I was amazed, but when I saw and started doing it and everything, it really helps. But hopefully I'll get some pollinators down here as the temperature warms up. Here's my peppers. You can see my lettuce. My lettuce looks really good over there. I've been eating off of those. That's the more of the squash. It's the same squash that I just showed you behind here. And then my beans are sporadic. I'm just gonna zoom in. These are my other beans up there. The beds up there on the upper half, these are all young peppers up there. So those 2 beds, and then I have spinach that you can see right there, and then my tomato plants, I talked about those the other day. Even today they look really good. And then these are my I guess you called your yellow squash or your crookneck squash. I have those. And then this is my hotbed. All of these peppers are all hot, so just giving a little what I've done, so it kind of gives you an idea what I'm looking at down here in the garden. And I'm just so thankful. But Let's get started, and I'll talk to you about what I use as fertilizer, and I'll be telling you the different types that I like to use. Again, thank you for being a part of Dave's Raised Bed Garden. I'm going to move this camera out just a tiny bit. I'm out here on the patio. I just been up there to the to the garden, and I actually went down there and actually watered my plants. You got to see a little bit of it and everything. But what I want to talk to you just briefly about is fertilizer. What is fertilizer? How is it used in your plants and everything? There's so many things and facets about it that you can use. But I want to talk to you generally just about two different fertilizers. The one that I wanted to talk to you about, it's been around for years. Now there's different types of brands. I get this from a local center that I buy here at LTD Southern States in King, North Carolina. But this is a vegetable grower, it's a fertilizer, and you can see these numbers down here. It says 10, 10, 10. What does a 10, 10, 10 mean? Well, there's three essential parts of fertilizer that your plants need. Just like we need certain vitamins and minerals in our own bodies and everything, the plant needs certain things. When we go about the 10, 10, 10, that is the percent of what each one of those is called NPK, which has to stand for your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potassium. Now, those three things are very key in our vegetables and everything for growth, for foliage, as far as your flowering, and then also for your vegetables. So these things are very important. Now, when I talk about this type of fertilizer, this fertilizer my dad used when I was a little boy. Now, I am a father, a pawpaw. I've been around for many years, and this fertilizer, I can go to any store basically that sells plants, Walmart, it doesn't matter, your Lowe's, your Home Depots, your local farmers centers, and so forth, and I will find fertilizer that is what is called 10, 10, 10. There's actually some fertilizers that the bigger farmers and stuff use that may be a 20, 20, 20. And the basis of numbers change based on what they're growing, based on what they feel their needs are, and then what they do is that's why they apply the fertilizer. Now, each method, or what I do as far as for what my planting goes, that how I do it is like, I do my gardening based on things that I've learned from my father when I was a young man. And he taught me, and I use the term, you teach someone when they're young, and it will not depart from them. And I believe that to be very, very true. My granddaughter, just to show you an example, she's going to be 3 years old soon, in a few months. And her habits are the thing, we're creatures of habit. And just by her watching me to go and how I do my watering, she did the same thing. Simple little story. She came in and she loves to play in water. We call her a water girl. I mean, she loves water. She gets it. If there's a little mud puddle, ever since she's been walking, she would find a mud puddle, and I think that's a natural thing for a kid. But what she would do is that I've encouraged her to help me along when I'm doing my watering and so forth. And the example is like she came over to the house. She had a little bit of spray bottle in the house that had, it's just a small one, they could put water in it. It was empty, and she wanted to fill the bottle up and everything, and she wanted to spray the flowers. So I was thinking, what she'd done. So anyway, she went and got water. She put it in the little bottle. Remember this. She put the spray bottle in there and then came outside, and she was on the porch, but she was only outside for about a minute. She came back in and said, it's empty. Well, we didn't know. We thought, well, what did she do? Did she just pour it? Because, spraying it's going to take a little while. So again, she went over to it, and then she was observed by her mother. What she did is I have a little canner right out here on the porch that I water the flowers here on my patio and the plants. And what she does is that she has helped me water my plants. So what she did, even though this bottle is only so big, she took it, and what we saw was that she went out here, took the sprayer out of it, poured it into the canner, and then took the canner to the plants and put it on the plants. Now, that took her a while, but that's just our mechanics. And what I'm saying is that when you teach them and young and everything, so getting back on the fertilizer, I couldn't understand why my dad did certain things certain ways, where he would go out with this fertilizer and he would tell me we would help each other. More or less what I did is I'd put the fertilizer out. He told me how much to put in my hand. Sometimes we use a little scoop. He would have a little cup or something. But I remember him taking the hoe and then pulling the dirt back and then putting it down there and then covering it up. That's what I learned when I was young. So I decided to do it. Now, this is before we had all this internet. This is before we had the way that we can go on and search and Google and do all these things. So that's the way that I did my gardening. I just thought that that was the right way. And so what I've developed is that through my knowledge and what I've been learning is that there's so many different facets of ways. What's scientific, what's myth, what's different ways. And what I found out is that some things, just what you learn, you can't explain all them, but a lot of times those little things that you learn, even though I can't explain why this, because I know the breakdown of the percentage of it. I know that that's 10% for each one of the nitrogen and the phosphorus and the potassium, and I know that those are three key essentials that the plants need. I also know that what I've learned that I didn't know when I was younger, that the nitrogen is what causes the green, the growth of the plant. It gets into it, allows the foliage to grow. The phosphorus is what it does for like your flowers, your flowering of your plant. If you have flowers, that increases, that helps that to increase. And then your potassium is what you're looking at for when you're concentrating on your fruit and so forth. So those different key and things that just by those little three things that I've understood has helped me to do that. So if I just want to put 10, 10, 10 out there on my garden, it's okay. How much do I do? It depends on me. It depends on, what research that I've learned from other farmers or from other gardeners and everything. But there's other things that I've learned that what I've seen that's been able to be helpful to me. There's other fertilizer that I use. This is the one that I talk highly about. I just believe is that when you see it work and you see what it does, then you want to go to it. This is called Neptune's Harvest. This is a fish fertilizer. Let me say this, is that there are fish emulsions and then fish fertilizer. I did the research on this company, and basically this is a company that they were a seafood company that basically what they did is they went out into the North Atlantic and they would get the seafood, the crab, the shrimp, everything they would do. But what they would do is that because they sell it and the fish is that they would fillet the fish. Well, what do you do with the rest of the fish? You have to do something with it. So what they developed is that they have made it where they do, it's a cold compress. It's actually a filtering system. Basically what they do is that the filtering is like it's taking like through different types of filter that you would go through, and it's a cold process. And what they would do, it's water, and what it does is that you just filter it. You're filtering that fish. It's breaking it down, it's decomposing and everything. It's breaking itself down, and then what they do is they filter it. This stuff, the consistency of it is like the consistency of chocolate milk. That's the thickness of it. So this is very soluble. You add it into a sprayer or a canner and everything. And this requires that you do 1 ounce per gallon. Now, what has worked for me, and I'll just show you the NPK is just to give you an example. The NPK, the three important numbers is that you have a 2, a 4, and a 1. The 2 is the nitrogen, the 4 is the phosphorus, and the 1 has to do with the potassium. Now this is a lower grade, so we're talking about 2%, 4%, and 1% that's in this fertilizer. Now what it recommends is that they say you do it about every 2 to 3 weeks. I've searched on videos and things, and I've done some reviews and everything, and they are actually gardeners that would do it 1 time a week. It just kind of gives you that extra boost. One thing that I have seen is that what I've used it, the first time I used it, was that the day afterwards was that the plants looked more greener, they just looked fuller, they just had more life to them and everything. And that's based on the essentials. So does that mean that this fertilizer is better than this fertilizer? Not necessarily, but it's something that I've seen that actually works for me, because what type of gardening am I doing? Am I doing traditional gardening that you would till up the ground and everything? 10-10-10 is the one that my dad always used. I do raised bed gardening. I've never done raised bed gardening until 2018. And when I started developing and started learning about the breakdown of the soil, the breakdown of the how watering does, and what is end rot, bottom end rot, what does that do? The different things, and adding calcium and so forth to it. These are things that I've had to learn throughout the years and everything that I continue doing. But at the same point, I can always go back to when I was a child that when I saw my dad put this fertilizer on there, and he probably put a few things that maybe I don't remember, but I remember this to be a key part of his gardening experience. And I can remember that we always had a lot of produce. We had our corn. It would just amaze me how tall the corn got and how big the ears were. Our okra plants were taller than me, and I would have to reach up just to pull the okra off the plants. The green beans that we planted, and that it seemed like we were always picking green beans, and we were always, having to snap them, and Mom was always canning them and those things. Those things are the things that I look back on that have helped me to be a better gardener and to be a better person based on what I do and the things and my hobbies and my lifestyle and what I do in everyday life. And so when we're talking about fertilizer, I believe that fertilizer is a key thing that you need for your garden. The weather changes, you're gonna have a lot of rain sometimes, you'll have a dry spout, you'll have so many different facets of the weather that it's always changing. And just what you need is that this is a way, just like I take a vitamin for my body, this is a way to give my plants a vitamin, to give the three key essentials that it needs. And then what I learned by why is my leaves turning yellow? Is it low on this, or is what's going on? Those are something that I'm going to learn as I go along. But by putting fertilizer, and so what I do is generally when I plant my plants in the ground, I will go ahead and hit it with a fertilizer. I will do it. Now what I did this year is I actually put it in before I started planting. I wanted to get in the soil because of breakdown over the winter. We had a lot of rain, so I didn't check my soil at the time. There's different meters, there's different test things that I can do to check the pH in my soil. But what I did is I hit the 10-10-10 with it. I came back out, it watered, I tilled the ground over and everything, and then I started planting. Some people, some people will do it the day that they actually do it. When they put the plant in, they'll actually put some fertilizer down in there. It's a base, a straight, what I call a standard fertilizer, like the 10-10-10. They'll put that in there to promote the growth of the plant. Then some of them will wait several weeks after that. That's what I do with the Neptune's Harvest. I've already applied one application of this, and so what I would do next week, I will do it again. I will apply another one. And I will just keep an eye on my plants to see what they're doing. And then if I feel like it needs something else, if it needs calcium, if it needs, if I need more potassium or different things, then I will add those according if I feel like that I need it. But also, two main things is it needs sunlight. Your vegetables have to have sunlight. And then your vegetables need to be watered. Now you can overwater them or you can underwater them. And I just believe on a daily basis, I keep track of the weather. I try to see if we've got a 90% chance of rain in 2 days, well, the higher end of that percentage means that if it's 90%, I'm at least guaranteed that I'm going to get maybe a passing shower. But if it's only 10%, then I have that less. So maybe I'll go out and water that morning, and I'll be light to water it. Or, it just depends. And I try to be format. But I do have a little gauge that I use that I can actually stick in the ground, and it lets me know. And I look what we call a happy medium, because it'll tell me if it's dry, or tell me if it's too wet. If I'm stuck right close to the middle and it's moist, then I'm going to leave it there. And then so I can kind of break down how I do my watering. Plus, it's how I'm learning how my soil breaks down. I've got some beds that the water it drains off the water very quickly. I have other soil that it likes to hold the water. So it's important for me as a gardener that the plants that do, if I can't break it down to get that soil, what I need, that even mix and everything, then what I want to try to do is that I want to plant the plants in that bed that may like to have that wetter soil, or the plants that adjust well with the drier soil. So it kind of lets me, to see exactly what I'm doing. So this is what I do. It's just a brief thing. I know I've talked a lot, but basically when you're doing the fertilizer, you want to be able to do your fertilizer. A base that I do, I just remember how, now I just explained what my dad did. When we would go out, every time we plant, he'd add a fertilizer. And about 3 to 4 weeks later, after the plant has been established in the ground, he would come back and he would hit that 10-10-10 on the thing. And then he'd watch it grow. Essentially about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how the vegetables are growing. he would do it. When the fruit came, I just remembered essentially when the fruit would come and it started growing, that's when he backed off on it, because he didn't want to give too much. But it was just based on it. My dad did not have a book. He didn't write it down. It's just something that he had learned and something that he had tried by trial and error. So this is the thing that what I'm able to do and everything. So that's what I try to do at Dave's Raised Bed Garden. I'm not a professional gardener. I believe in things that I can't explain. I explained this to somebody the other day because I was explaining something that taking like Tums. Tums is a calcium carbonate, and I can take a Tums, crush it up, put it in a gallon sprayer and spray it on my tomato plants, and I've seen where it helps it for the tomatoes not to get the bottom end rot. Can I explain all that? No. It's a source of calcium, and I know that that's telling me either that because I did not do it, my calcium loss was either that my soil does not have enough calcium in it, or it's indirect watering, meaning that I'm not watering it essentially, based on a time where the water, it'll give it the calcium that it needs when it breaks it down into the soil. So those are those things that I have to learn moving forward. But the same way, I can't explain that when I was a child and I ran over a yellow jacket's nest and I got stung like 19 stings over there, that a man that was out there helping my father chewed tobacco, took the wad out of his mouth. It was all moist, and then he told me to take my shirt off, and he took little pieces of that and applied it to each sting. And hey, I remember as a small child, I was only about 8 years old, but I'll tell you what, and within a few minutes I didn't have no problems with the pain of the sting. Can I explain that? No, but I know it worked. So I have a habit now. I'm not a smoker, I don't chew or anything, but if I get stung and I know somebody that does chew and has tobacco, you know what, I'm going to ask them, can you give me a little bit of that? And I'll just wet it down and I put it on, and it's worked for me. So it's just the kind of ideas that what I look at was based for me, and it helps me to be a better gardener and everything. So that's just a little extra plug that I've given you. But when you're doing fertilizer and everything, you want to be able to go out there and you have to figure out what is best for you and your garden and everything. And I hope this is a way that you can understand a little bit better. But those three things, the NPK, those are essentials that your plants need. And it's the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium. So the nitrogen is going to help the growth of the plant. It's going to get the foliage, the green. It's going to bring more, it's going to add more body to it, more life to it. Your phosphorus is what we're talking about, your foliage and so forth. Getting that foliage to it to make the colors will look brighter, your blooms are bigger. And then dealing with vegetables, a lot of these plants, you need that because those blooms are what your fruit come out of. And so that gives you, and then your potassium, it makes it, they say it makes it sweeter. And it makes it taste better and everything. So those are some things that you can look at as you're moving forward, as you're doing a garden. And I thank you for spending the time with me today. Thank you for being a part of Dave's Raised Bed Garden. And click on the like button. Let me know your comments, any things that you have, and I'll be sure to take those and I'll be sharing them with you, some ideas and things that maybe the other people have learned too. I just thank you for being a part of Dave's Raised Bed Garden. And I just hope everybody has a great day and a great week. And until next time, God bless you and take care.